guys. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate the transfer students and the graduates that have made it today. So first of all, give you guys a hand for the folks that are transferring for making it to the next You should be proud of yourself. And so I salute you. So I just want to welcome you. You guys know me because if you've been in the program, I've at some point, might have messed with you and cheered you on and poked you and prodded you a little bit. But it's all been in love though, you know what I'm saying? Like a little bit maybe was kind of malicious, but most of it has been in love. But I somewhat get emotional around this time period because even though you may know that you've grown over the last couple years among you been here, I have had a chance to have a snapshot of you in the very beginning. And so for some folks, it's been 2 years plus, and I can see the differences, in folks, and I kind of pay attention to the differences. So I see some folks walking with their chest out a little more, with the head up a little bit, and ready for that next level. And I just want to throw in just a couple key things to think about as you guys transition over. And one of the words that's coming to my mind right now is to be authentically bold. And so with that, it's this idea where you can be yourself and you should be yourself and express all of who you are. So right now, with the shifts that's happening in this country, with the shift that's happening in this world, there's a kind of this affront to diversity, and I really believe that if you believe in a creator, he made us all different on purpose, right? We need different people with different perspectives, with different thinking, with different life experiences to bring the collective together as a whole, so we can do more as a whole than maybe having the same monolithic thinking or ways of being or perspective than others. And because you're coming from the experience at the community college, because whatever brought you here is part of your fabric of your story, it's going to be different than a lot of other folks that maybe didn't take that route and maybe went to the university right away. And you need to know that you belong in the room with them, that you are more than capable, that your voice matters. And I want to give you permission to share that, to develop your voice and continue to develop your voice, and to make sure that when there's injustices happening around you, when there's people who are saying things that are just ain't cool, go to your place of wisdom and make that decision. Is it right now the time for me to just say something about that? And voice that because you don't want to tolerate that, right? You don't want to make sure that your silence is giving someone else permission to be bad. And then also, I want to connect it to this idea of being bold, right? I want you guys to be fearless. Yeah, you're going to make mistakes. We all do. But at the same time, whatever happens to you in life is meaningless. Right? Whatever happens to you in life is meaningless. You add the meaning to it. That's what you have with free will. So if you add meaning to it in a way where you grow from it, then you continue to expand. Right? And if you add meaning to it where it's someone else's fault or whatever, then you lose a way to expand from that, and then you end up contracting from that. But being bold is saying no matter what, no matter if I get a W, no matter if I get an L, no matter what happens to me, I'm going to use that as an opportunity to grow, and I'm going to believe in myself fully and just go all in, right? So we're playing poker right now. It's time. You guys got a good hand right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all need to go all the way in, and just lean on the things you learned here, and just be open to all the other things that you can learn from the really smart people around you and the really smart people who may be your professors that you're going to meet along the way. And then the last thing I'll just say briefly is I'm just going to encourage you to meet new people and move outside your comfort zone. Y'all right now, maybe you guys the big fish in this little pond right now. You guys walking around, woo, woo, woo. You guys gonna be moving to a bigger pond. That's okay, right? Because you're gonna need to study with people that think differently than you, that maybe have smarts in areas that you can learn from. But don't walk around these schools with your head down, trying to hide and isolating yourself from folks. No, meet people. They want to meet you and they need to meet you just as much as you need to meet them. They need to figure out how brilliant you are, and you need to figure out how brilliant they are and see if you can get a little bit of their shine. Can I get a little bit of that, right? There's nothing wrong with that. So with that said, welcome. And I'm gonna go ahead and introduce our guest speaker, our keynote speaker, Isidro Gonzales, who, based on his bio, I'm not going to go through it because you have a chance to take a look at it, but he studied civil engineering and he also studied business at MIT. He's someone who's had a chance to work in the Silicon Valley area for a long time in technology, and it seems like now he's doing more AI type of technology as a consultant. But he's a person who just has a lot of wisdom, not only in regards to what it is to be a professional and move in those circles, but also as a father, also as just someone who's very passionate about his community and just uplifting others. And so with that, I would like to introduce you to Isidro Gonzales.
Yeah. I'm so grateful to be here because, as Fred said, I'm the same as you, just 25 years ahead. So I've been in your shoes. I grew up in South Chicago. I was born in Mexico. I grew up in South Chicago. So I tell people I grew up in the same neighborhood as you, just mine was in South Chicago. And there's a lot of things that Fred has talked about that I wanted to just touch on and just kind of tell you how that happened in my life. And Fred, we were talking about this and just kind of tell you a little bit. And so first, we're a STEM program. So first you get the digital high five. 410. I love that. People don't get that at my job. I get that. But first thing I want to talk about is just recognition, right? And one, Fred did a great job. It's just recognizing yourselves or having been here, what you've accomplished today, right? Just remember that. So we're here to recognize you guys. Here's what I want to take the time to recognize what you've accomplished. But also why you came here, right? And people say, oh, well, I spent some time at CCSF because, it was just nearby and it was cheap and I can learn basic programming here and it was great. But that's true. But that's not exactly why you came here. You came here because you wanted to do more. You wanted to take more responsibility. You wanted to help your family. That's why you came here, right? So, because you give a shit, you care. I promised I wouldn't say that, Fred, but I lied. That's what's important, right? That's why you came here. So it actually doesn't, that makes the difference, right? Because you now have this new knowledge that you gained. But now it's just a tool that you can use, but it's up to you to say how you're going to use it, right? So that's the thing that I want to recognize next is be sure that you carry that with you. Now you have this tool. No one can, that's the great thing about knowledge. That's the great thing about experience. That's the great thing about who you are. Grew up in South Chicago, grew up in San Diego, wherever. Nobody can take that away from you. That is your power going forward. So now, let's talk about how you can use that, but just recognize that in yourself, right? You've got that tool forever. So fantastic. And the next step that you're taking, outside of City College, where you're going next, that's where you need to find the rest of the tools that you might need to do what you want to do, right? So that's where your next step in learning. So I want to underline what Fred was saying is that where you go next, you deserve to be there, right? Everybody else. And I have some stories about transitions that I've made in my life, but do not doubt yourself. You're there, you're ready. So let's forget about maybe the imposter syndrome, am I ready, blah, blah, blah. You are ready, okay? Take that with you. So I wanted to tell you about how to recognize an opportunity that you can take that works for you. So when I was starting at MIT, I had a plan. I wanted to be an electrical engineer, and then at the end, and during 4 years, blah blah, I got a job. I ended up changing majors about 4 times. I ended up taking 5 years to graduate. Let me tell that story, but it made me who I am. So I want to tell you about that learning, kind of recognizing the opportunities along the way. A couple of things that I need to share first. So one is I am super ADD. So you've heard of ADHD. You recognize that kid, and that's the little girl who's like bouncing all over the place. That's the hyper part. That's easy to recognize. But the attention part, the attention deficit, that's a little bit more mysterious. Let me tell you how that works. Is that it takes energy to concentrate, right? And those of us with attention deficit, we don't naturally make the energy to concentrate on something if we are not interested in it. If we're interested in it, oh man, it's like I'll spend hours reading, watching the tube, or playing with something if we're interested. So like when I work out, I can't do laps, or I can't do like running because I get bored, which is why I play soccer, because it takes all my attention, right? So my whole family is ADD, blah, blah, blah. Which means that for me, to be in my happy zone, I need to be naturally interested in that thing. So that was kind of my journey. I didn't figure it out. I wasn't diagnosed until I was like 40. And you'd be shocked, like how many people that I went to college with were like, me too. Like it wasn't a thing back then, but now it's better. So my journey was when I got to college, what we say is like the first thing you learn at MIT is humility. Because we were all like the smartest kids in our class. I wasn't in my high school. I wasn't really in high school. Like my girlfriend was like way smarter than me. But you go into a room in college, and it's covered with figures, and they're meaningless. Understand zero, nothing, right? That is scary, and builds your humility. And of course, the woman next to you is like, easy A, woohoo! So 2 things happen, right? One is, that's who you make friends with, right? That's who you go and they're like, I need your help. I know nothing, right? And that's great, because if you knew everything, you wouldn't need to go, right? So again, you're looking for the tool that you need next. Other thing is that there's lots of rooms at a university. There's going to be another room down the hall where actually they're lost and you know more, right? So they're going to say, hey, so what Fred was saying, get their shine, get there. And that's true in life, right? You learn from other people and you share your knowledge. That's how you build community. I don't care if you're born anywhere, we're nerds together, right? We're building the same product. That's what matters. Like, I don't care what you look like, what you present as, who you fall in love with. We're nerds together, right? That's how you should live. So that's the first thing. And then the other thing that Fred touched on is, make friends, get out of your comfort zone, experiment. What I recommend is volunteer opportunities, internships, right? Try it out. The big advantage that you have is that you were here and you already have a lot of life experience just from coming and being the other people around you. Again, no one can take that away. So try different things, and internships work great because you get to try out a job, kind of low expectations. So you get to taste what it's like to do the job. So for me, I did like what's called the research programs. Like someone says, we need people to get electric shocks for 5 days. $5 an hour. Like, can you do that? Like, yeah, I'm desperate. But there was a professor who needed data entry, so I learned Excel. So that carried me with me. So now I do a lot of Excel because I love it. So then my next job, you guys know diamond lanes, the HOV lanes on the highway. So I got an internship at a transportation consulting because back in the old days we didn't have HOV lanes. So this professor invented the math, right? Because it's not obvious that if you take 1 lane out of 4, and you make it 2 people per car, that makes things better. It's just not obvious at all. So he proved the math. Anyways, they were working on this, and they needed people to build the database, to build the spreadsheet. So my job was to enter a bunch of numbers, but that was the project. Eventually now everybody has HOV lanes, but that was back then. Lovely people, great work, bored out of my skull. That wasn't for me. I said I wanted to be an electrical engineer. I didn't like the math, not for me. I went to aeronautics. At that time, there were going to be no jobs in aeronautics. So, but I liked all the different kinds of science that goes into it, like a plane. You know, it's a box, sealed box. Nobody dies. It's flying. It's got motors, like interesting stuff. There were going to be no jobs. I got scared. I dropped out. Went into transportation studies. Got bored. ADD. Changed subjects. And it was buildings, you know, so that's why I started civil engineering, because transportation studies was in the civil engineering department. Like, I know how to build buildings, and you're always going to need that. So it's like I understood that. So I took a degree in civil engineering. You'll understand this. Most fun course was Cement 101. Very cool. Trust me, because you have to build stuff, you know, and that doesn't happen until like junior year. But it's like by then you know stuff. It's kind of like, how come that thing's not going to fall? It's like, oh, because this number, the stress factor in this thing is so high and it's not going to break. Like, oh, I understood that. I studied that 2 years ago and I get it. You don't have to say more. You know, it's a fun class, Cement 101. And I really enjoyed that. And I lived in a fraternity, and a friend of mine needed someone to build spreadsheets for a consulting company. And what they said was, help us do this, and I got interested in what the consultants were telling the businesses. And I got interested in business, so I added a second major in the business school. So now, and I've never been an engineer. I've always been a business person, applying technology to businesses. So that's the journey. So it's just my example of try things, learn things, find out what you like. And that's how it worked for me. I wanted to talk about bringing your whole self. Like, what does that mean? Fred mentioned something about being true to yourself and being brave when you need to, right? Right now there's a change in the world where people are saying people of different types shouldn't be different types. People who have knowledge maybe shouldn't share that knowledge. Like, we're nerds. We don't believe that. Technology is not magic. So there's that. But for me, the trick for how to bring more of yourself is using who you are, what you've learned, and then you apply that. You connect that so you can jump off. So let me give you an example. So say you're on the bus and you're on your phone and you're watching a video or something, and you notice that when you go under the railroad tracks or whatever, it breaks up. And you live near the railroad tracks, so your experience sucks. Okay, that's a problem. It's just technology. Someone needs to solve that. Why not you, right? My mom is 83. She doesn't want to go into a home, whatever, you know. How do I make the microwave easier for her to use? So we know that she's safe. I don't want her to use the stove. Mom, use the microwave. Simple problem. You know, we all have grandmothers. Simple things, right? Or you're a musician, right? How do you organize a team? Hey, it's like we're putting on a show. It's got to come together. You got your part, you got your part, you got your part. Are you good? You need help? You don't? Good. You need help? Great. We'll get you help. We'll put it all together. Like a smoke. So use everything you got, you know, and that is how I keep things interesting for me, but it's, I think, just a way to bring more of yourself, you know. If you play volleyball, you play soccer, if you wash cars for money, I used to lawns, those are small businesses, right? You bring that. All of that is what you bring, and it's equally valid for everybody. So that's how you connect things. I have a little story in my bio there about, I like the idea of campfires, right? That we've only had written language as humans for like 20,000 years. It's not very long, right? And basically we all kind of like keep warm, tell stories, share things, right? And with current technology, internet and stuff, really we're just connecting campfires around the world. Like, my dad, was 88, and all he knew was that if he pushed the picture on his phone with his little sister, my madrina, my mom, his little sister, he could talk to her, right? Half the time the video was pointing up and they were holding it like this, but that's cool, right? They couldn't do that before, right? They can keep together. So, like the WhatsApp with my family in Mexico, there was like 87 messages all the time. It's like, great coffee, like who cares, right? But there's an earthquake, we all checked in, right? These are ways that you can connect your campfires. So that's how you're looking beyond the technology, beyond the tools. Like that is where I don't know, your people help me connect. That's a gift to me, and you can help build that. So that's how you find why you don't get bored, why you keep moving forward. And that's why I gravitated to the cloud. That's why I ended up working with companies that wanted to build that. Started out with spreadsheets. Started out with what are the spreadsheets talking about. Someone asking me like, how did you end up at NVIDIA and AMD and Microsoft? Because along the way, I figured out the information in those spreadsheets was about building. First it was PCs. And then you put those so that they run 24/7 and they become servers. You figure out how to talk to those servers over distances, and that becomes the internet. You figure out how to not talk to just computers but over wireless, and that becomes wireless internet. So if you look at my resume, it's like all those were the jobs. Start out with PCs and cards. Do I want people listening in? I did security, right? So it's all connected. It was basically, how do I connect campfires together? How do I get my dad to do a video call with his sister? I remember being at Qualcomm in the 90s in a van full of equipment, and we were watching videos driving around the parking lot. It was a van, right? Now it's your phone, right? So that's the evolution. So that's what connected me. So I came here to recognize the work that you've done. I want to encourage you to recognize the work that you've done, right? Take that with you. When you walk into that next room, you deserve to be there. Maybe you don't know everything, get help, and in the next room, you'll probably know more, help others. Bring your whole self to your job. That's what we need, right? We need you. So I came here to thank you. We need you, because you came here because you wanted to take that responsibility. You're doing that. Thank you so much. CCSF is great because you were here. The next place you go to is also going to be great because you're going to be there. Thank you.
All right, continue to stay up real quick. We're going to pull an audible real quick because that's what we're doing. Does anybody have any questions for him? I know that sometimes afterwards you try to seek out people and get them in the corner, but since I'm just going to take 5 to 7 minutes, and if you have any questions for him at all, please just go ahead real quick. I see a hand in the back.
What advice do you have for people who are trying to break into your industry, given now that they have? How do people go about kind of
YouTube.
Yeah,
YouTube. So the cool thing about YouTube is you pretty much learn how to do anything. The cool thing about it is that a lot of companies just kind of publish how stuff works. So the thing that I was telling you is something's not right, you feel could be better, or you're just plain curious. You're I wonder how ChatGPT or a friend was telling me, my browser knows I'm gay. Why is that? How does it know, right? So just research that stuff. And a really good way to find out about how things work is just YouTube, because someone's made a half-hour video, I guarantee you, of the basics, and you guys know enough to understand the basics. And then when you go to that company, it's who does that? Who can fix that? That's your target company. It's hey, I noticed that this happens. I think I can fix that for you. I have ideas about how to do that, right? And that's basically what the help that they need. But you're coming in with an idea. You're not just saying, give me a job. You're saying, I can help you do something better. So how do you start? Just get some knowledge. YouTube works great. ChatGPT right now is actually getting better. I want to encourage all you guys to use it because ChatGPT knows more than we do. It is not smarter than we do, right? I love this group because you ever watch Star Trek?
Yes.
Okay. So when they're investigating something on the planet, they don't say open up a file C colon blah, blah 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 to program. They just say they ask the spaceship, right? The spaceship is the computer. They go, is there any correlation between the bursts of light and the explosions? Like they happen, 10 nanoseconds apart. They must be related, right? They don't program anything, just ask, right? It's kind of what we're getting at, And then when we were kids, when we went into a program, the first thing they taught us was how to go to the library and do research, right? So now that's just ChatGPT. The difference was, when we were told to write a paper, all the research in the library was your starting point. And then you thought about it. And then you figured out a problem. And then you proposed a solution, right? Culturally, that's what's changed because people are thinking whatever ChatGPT spits out is the answer. That's the wrong part, right? So what a lot of my friends like to do is to test it by asking a question they know the answer to and see what comes back, right? Like, it's like, what's the recipe for Korean barbecue, whatever my grandma makes? Like that's not it. Like, no, right? That's how you know it's wrong, right? So then you can go to ChatGPT people and say, hey, who wrote your restaurant stuff? It's wrong. How do I know? I tried it. It's like, right? So that's how you get. So use ChatGPT as your starting point, right? And then check it against what you know, right? You're smart. You've been here. You know what good programming looks like. Don't trust it, right? It's your starting point, right? And then you improve it, and then you're helping.
Any other questions?
Yes.
You said that you were diagnosed with ADD when you were 40. So how did you cope with this? Something that you didn't know, like you knew that there was something, or did you know that there was something that you felt, or how did you go through that as you were going to school and then finally finding out?
All-nighters, desperation, caffeine, right? So people, so when we were kids, what people focused on was like the hyperactive and the really extreme cases. So the belief was if you have really high ADD, you're not a functioning adult, right? Like you can't be intelligent or that's BS. And what happens is you get by on your intelligence and desperation. So like I was really good at all-nighters, because remind me to tell you the trick. There's a trick around work that I'll tell you later. But so when I was going through school and my early job and my family and stuff, luckily I married someone who's not ADD, so that helped a lot, but drove them crazy. But it was just, okay, I can't decide, I don't know what to do, I've got a lot of ideas, I can't get organized, blah, blah. Comes 2 days before the project is due, you get really focused and you just get it
Oh
done.
my God, that's me.
Yeah, but there's
Oh my God.
exactly, but there's ways, but it doesn't make you less intelligent or less capable or whatever, it just means you have a different style, right? So you need to kind of work with that. So early on, I would say, hey, college, first 5-10 years of my work, probably 10 years of my work, it's kind of desperation and and you get better at it. In adults, ADD presents as, clinically it presents as depression or stress. And you go to your doctor, you go to your psychiatrist, and it's like, oh my God, I'm so stressed out, if I could only get organized. And I take a lot of therapy, because I call it counseling. Come to Fred, because he's seen.
Yeah, no, same. I'm so in tune with what you're telling me because
Yeah, it's the same story.
I said that I have anxiety or I have depression, and I just feel like sometimes
It's
to get that energy.
what is it, right? It's
Right.
not. It doesn't come by itself. There's a reason for it. So then, for me, it's like, and it just turned out that my counselor was an ADD specialist, the occupational therapy. So she recognized, maybe you should get tested, right? So it turns out that I have ADD. I also, people process in different ways. I'm like 98% visual, which is why I like spreadsheets. I've got all the information in front of me. When I'm getting organized, I got papers all over the place, right? I don't scroll through stuff. I print it and I can
just
organize
touch
it.
Feel it.
some people, like
You're
some
doing the
people,
Rain Man thing. You're like,
yeah. You know, or there's people who, you know, there's like the people who are like, they're just like bouncing, they're physical, right? They're like, somehow they're embedding all the knowledge, right? There's the person who doesn't take notes. They don't read the book, right? But they're processing orally. I don't, so if you tell me 3 things, or remember the first 2, I won't hear the third one, because I'm processing the first 2, you know, so I write them down. So that's why I eventually got diagnosed, was that there was then specialists who could say, this kind of, how you present this way, probably has this kind of a source, let's check it out. And it explained a lot. So then, insurance-wise, mental health diagnoses eventually, like if they were kind of chronic or permanent, they got billed as what's called equivalent. So it was like going to your therapist was the same as just going to your checkup. So it's like $20, right? So you can get therapy for $20, like not a lot. Things have changed, but it just became normal, you know. So I take a lot of Adderall, I take a lot of coffee. I take anti-anxiety because it's always there, and it just helps, you know. So, and then my whole family we're all super ADD and got lots of stories about that. Our partners all kind of look at each other, you know.
Well, thank you so much for even talking about that, because I just feel like
Yeah.
that's so important, especially as students. We go through a lot of anxiety and even depression. You know, life happens, and sometimes we're trying to still figure ourselves out.
Yeah, and then like you've got families and you've got jobs and you've got, you know, responsibilities, and then you want to do more.
Right.
And then like Stephen Jobs yelling at me, and so a couple fun stories. Like the American myth of like the technology genius, totally ADD. Think about it. Like they're just like up all day and they can't, you're like brilliant. Like yeah, they're ADD. Like that's all they're focused on. That's what they care about. Is like our cultural heroes, like pretty ADD. You know, so that's normal actually. And like, you know, they slept under their desk. Like that's not healthy. They're ADD. You know, so Elon Musk totally ADD. Right. So, I read a statistic that statistically the U.S. has like a huge percentage of ADD people compared to other countries. Why is that? Well, who else is going to be wherever they are? They like pick up and migrate.
Right.
Right.
No, seriously.
ooh, wow, I never thought
Right?
about
Because
that.
Fred was saying, it's like, why would a species evolve people who say, hey, we should stay here and farm? And another part of the species who says, hey, look, shiny. What's that, right? Because the species needs variety, right? So the U.S. is just like full of people. It's like, you know, it's like MIT, Silicon Valley, full of ADD people. Just because we like each other.
But they are diagnosed? Like
A lot of them are not
undiagnosed.
A lot of them are
They're
undiagnosed.
highly functional, but you know.
Yeah, and a lot of people are, I believe, in high tech and high tech marketing in particular, very undiagnosed. So I call it my superpower. Like I there's things that I do well and things I don't. And you know, like I get sensitive to high pitched sounds late in the evening when my drugs are wearing off, and it turns out that is the sound of teenage girls arguing. So at dinner time, I would tell my daughters, like, guys, not you, it's me. Daddy's got to go and like find dad, you know, and then they just keep going. My kids are off, right? But it's just me. You know, it's not them. They can work it out, keep fighting. That's your thing. You know?
All right, he's gonna be around here a little bit later,
Yeah.
so we're gonna go ahead and move on. But thank you.
But
We'll move on for now, and then. But you got a quick question?
It might not be quick.
All right, let's move through this, and then we'll open it up again.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Because I also want to get you guys, if you guys are hungry, just some food too. So,
I'm not going
all right.
away. You
So
can
just
email me
really
later.
quickly, I want to recognize the people who are transferring, and even though some of these folks aren't here today, we still want to just say their name and kind of give a sense of where people are going. It's about 14 people who are transferring that I know of so far. So Francis actually transferred to San Jose State last semester. So, you know, in the CSU system, you can kind of transfer in between semesters. And so she's software engineering. And then we have Sophia Chan, who is here, but not here today. And it looks like she's choosing between UC Davis and San Diego in civil engineering. So we'll have to say something for her. And then, come on up, Dion. Come on up. So Dion's here. She got into UC Berkeley.
Hey,
So we
congrats.
have to
Let's
quick.
go.
And computer computer science, which we have a lot of those coming through here, but some of them do change their mind in between, but you're sticking with it.
Congrats.
But yeah, for the people who are here that are transferring, there's a bag here for you, and then please pick up a book. So, you know, I'm always into figuring out how to self-empower ourselves, and there's different variety of books there, but you know, if you're not a reader, pick up some for somebody else that you think may read it. And then the last thing I'll say is that I do have, for some of the transfer students, some leftover jackets that I've had from like a few years back, and they're MESA jackets. So unfortunately, we just have limited sizes. We have medium, large, extra large, and double X. But after everything is done, if people who are getting ready to transfer want one, you know, please come up and then we can grab one. All right, so thank you. All right, we have Ronald Chen, who is UC Irvine, Aerospace Engineering. I think he didn't make it. And then we have Tom, who's here. Who is about to wear the navy blue and gold. It's gonna be proud of you, bro. And he got into the electrical engineering program.
It's actually electrical engineering and computer science.
Yes,
It's a double major, bro.
Yes. All right, thank you. I don't see Andrew here, but he is choosing between UC Santa Cruz and Davis. I have farmed him here, but one of the other majors may be neuroscience. And so we'll wait to see what happens with him. And then Han is here. Come on up. He's going to be studying electrical engineering at San Francisco State.
Let go. Go Gators.
And I think I have your certificate in my office. I can give that to you in a minute. But he told me that he's studying electrical engineering because he doesn't want to be homeless. But I don't think he'll ever be homeless because he's the most resourceful person that I know. Yeah, you are. Congratulations. You don't think you use resources, huh? You use resources. Yeah, that's a great thing. All right, and then Johnson, come on up.
Let's go. Johnson.
I acted like I chose for Johnson, but he's not 100% UCLA yet. It looked like he has a decision, and maybe San Diego as well. But he is pre-med, and he's doing something within the biological space as he leans towards. It must be in my office too, so I can get that to you in a minute. But yes, but yeah, proud of you, bro. All right.
Hey, brother, go ahead and go to UCSD. Yeah?
All right.
Beautiful out there.
Yeah.
All right, next we have Xiaoxing, who is planning to go to UC San Diego, computer science. We have Andrew, who's not here, who is planning to go to San Jose State in electrical engineering. We have Kiki, who is planning to go to UC Berkeley, computer science. And then we see Ronan, who snuck up in here.
Yeah.
He is planning to major and become a next aerospace engineer
Right.
at San Jose State.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
congratulations. And Kenny, Dean, is that Kenny here? Okay. So he's planning to go to either UC San Diego or Santa Barbara in physics. And then we have Wynn, who got into UC Berkeley and will be majoring in chemical biology.
Hey.
So maybe really quickly, for the folks that are here, come on up and let's take a quick little picture.
Yes.
Come and jump in the picture too, Isidro, because we want to document that you're here with us, so we can commensurate this moment.
This is a
Everybody, right?
Oh.
All right, so please, we're gonna go ahead and close out because it's an informal time now. You guys can talk to Isidro if you have some questions. For the folks that are transferring, please grab a bag
Oh, thank you.
and a book, and let me know if